Won't we get into the post-lunch syndrome, I believe. Okay, so now moving on to our next session, that is again a very wonderful and power-packed key talk. The topic of this talk is cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. And for that, we have with us today Ms. Kavitha Gupta. She is the Senior Legal Counselor at Airbus Group India. And she's a senior legal counselor for Airbus Groups of India and supports the business and legal matters for Indian region. And she has nearly around 15 years of experience in the same domain. So can we have Ms. Kavitha on stage? Give her a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. I hope I would keep you all awake after post-lunch. It's quite challenging, but I'll try my best. So my topic is artificial intelligence, privacy, and cybersecurity concerns under Indian law. Till now, we have heard our expert speaker, Mr. Sridhar Vedi, talk more about digital transformation, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. So my topic would be more focused on privacy. Privacy is, again, a very important part of cybersecurity and is inseparable. After the European GDPR, which is the world's strongest, or I would say most strictest privacy law, it came into effect in May 25th of this year, and one of the basic principles of the privacy is security, cybersecurity. So it is actually a statutory obligation, and that was my question to Mr. Arjun. So cybersecurity is something just not good to have or to protect the company, but it is also one of the statutory obligations which has been imposed by Europe and which is again followed by many countries, including India. And one thing is that any company which has business in Europe, if it fails when it comes to the security protection, they're liable to pay a penalty of nearly 4% of its annual global turnover. So it is not restricted only for its businesses, whether it's doing a business in India revenue or a Europe revenue. It would impact the entire global revenue. For example, if Facebook has a $1 billion business in India, or in Europe it is $10 billion. But if there is any security breach, the maximum extent of the penalty would be 4%. So this is where privacy plays a very important role when it comes to cybersecurity. So my topic is more, I would be focusing more on artificial intelligence, as this is something that we really cannot stay about, as we are all connected digitally, and there are a lot of data that's flowing. Artificial intelligence, as it is booming, so this is the social economic impact of AI for India. So AI has the potential to add nearly $1 trillion to India's economy in 2035. As per research by Accenture, it's said that AI will boost India's annual growth by 1.3 percentage points by 2035. So this is the economic impact that AI has in India. So before I begin my session, I would like to first take you through artificial intelligence, some of the breakthrough technologies of artificial intelligence. This slide shows some of the breakthrough technology. Let's look the concept of AI in the context of human being. As rightly said by Vedi, that human being is the most intelligent creation ever made. So like how human can speak and listen to communicate through languages, this is called speech recognition. Much of the speech recognition is statistically based, and hence it is called statistical learning, like Siri. Hence, human can write and read text in a language. This is called natural language processing, like Google Translator. Human can see through their eyes and process through what they see. This is the field of vision API, or image processing. Human can walk and move around. This is the field of robotics. And now let's talk about human brains. The human brain is a network of neurons, and we use them to learn things. This is the field of neuron networks. These networks are complex and deeper, and we learn to do complex things, and this is the field of deep learning. So these are some of the deep breakthrough technology that we use in our day-to-day life. Before moving ahead, or before I could speak about the privacy concerns or the cybersecurity concerns, it's really important to understand the technology process involved in AI as compared to a computer system. A computer system will not recognize the difference between a cat and a dog, whereas an AI do recognize the differences between a cat and dog because it is being trained by data. So what is the process that's involved? The first process is data preparation. Raw data is formatted and cleansed, so conclusions can be drawn. Generally, accuracy depends on the increase and relevance of the data that has been provided. Again, algorithms are applied for analytics. Once the data is analyzed, the machines can determine a pattern. Once the machine can determine this pattern, it can make prediction on what it has learned that even human cannot. So we can use all these machine learnings to do one or more things like classifications and predictions. That is the third stage. So as an example, when you use some information about the customers to assign to new customers to a group like young and adults, we are actually classifying the information. But if you use these information to move to know if any of the customers would be moving to its competitor, we would be actually predicting, and that is known as predicted analytics. So now that we understand the technology process, this slide shows some of the distinctive features of artificial intelligence. The first distinctive feature of artificial intelligence is unpredictability of design. Big data analytics usually involves discovery phase of running large number of algorithms against the data to find correlations. Just like GPS device provides you one direction using AI to process your request, it is making decisions for you. So so what happened to the 99 ways you have, but it only makes one decision for you to go to your office or home. So your navigation has selected. So the uncertainty of the outcome of this phase is known as the unpredictability by design. The next distinctive feature is the black box effect. So who governs this algorithm and how they behave in making decisions? Nobody knows about it. These all are shrouded in secrecy and protected by intellectual property laws. And this is how large companies like Google and Facebook are making huge amount of money. The total lack of transparency and opacity in the algorithm means that, that we have no insight about the decisions being made for us and about us as a result of artificial intelligence or deep learning. The next feature is the big data approach. As I mentioned, the more data, the more power to AI. So AI follows the big data approach. That is, it uses all the data for analyzing a model. Like Ford car is learning from the data in its car, that its car can detect when the driver is not alert due to distraction, fatigue, or intoxication, and can send an alarm to the driver. So the other feature of artificial intelligence is repurposing of data. It doesn't use the data for a particular purpose. And always the data is used for a different purpose that it was originally collected, and the data may have been supplied by a different organization. This is because the analytics is able to mine the data for new insights. Companies like Axion, Epsilon, Reed are all data brokers, and they have an annual revenue of 156 billion USD. So you could just imagine, so as rightly said by Bhupesh, that data is the new oil. That is where these companies are making huge amount of money by using techniques like behavioral targeting, predictive targeting, and AI tools to target the consumers. The next feature is on new types of data. like IoT sensors, cookies, and other technology that captures the data, they are also automatically generating the new data. So I would classify the data into 4 categories. First is provided data, the data that is provided by the individual directly. Observed data, the data that is recorded automatically by online sensors, cookies, IoT devices. The other is the derived data, the data that is produced from other data by simple AI, like number of visitors in a shopping mall or the items bought. And the fourth one, which is again a very important one, is the inferred data. So inferred data is produced by complex AI model, which is more known as profiling of the individuals. This is more used by the insurance companies for profiling, for credit card scores, and etc. So these are the 4 categories of data that AI produce. So now that we understand the distinctive features of AI, it is also important to know what are the challenges that it poses when it comes to the usage of AI. So AI revolution is just like the industrial revolution, just like that the robots are taking over humans' brain instead of physical capabilities. The biggest fear is that humans always believe that machines are inherently better at making decisions than humans and will blindly trust the decision on an AI system. But when it comes to the issues, the legal challenges, I think the first legal challenges would be the legal liability. That is, who is responsible if anything goes wrong? Or if a wrong conclusion is made, which might be harmful to the human. Just for an example, in case of an health care related issue, is it a doctor or the healthcare center that would be responsible? Or would it be the programmer of the AI model that would be responsible for such kind of wrong decisions? And what if the patient specifically requested that the AI system determine the course of treatment? So these are some of the questions which has left open. I think we recently saw a Uber self-driver car which met with an accident, and again it posed that who would be really responsible for such an accident? Would it be the Uber company or the individual who was driving the car? So these are some of the legal challenges. The other biggest challenges that AI poses is on antitrust. We all know that Google has received a record-breaking $5 billion from the European Commission for its antitrust tool, the Android operating system, to secure the dominance of its search engine in mobile phone. The court has mentioned it as serious illegal behavior to Google for dominating the market. In September, just to give you one more example about antitrust, how companies are being, using, including discrimination. So in 2000 September, CNN reported that some of the customers of Amazon were aggravated over price discrimination on the price of a particular DVD. One of the buyers reported that the price of the DVD after removing the cookies was costing him with a difference of nearly $2.5 margin. So because of the cookies, the company was able to predict that this customer is going to buy, and that is, I think we all must have faced similar challenges when it comes to booking our own travel tickets for air. So these are some of the challenges. The other challenges is on intellectual property rights. So usually, I think as you know, machines are replacing human. So previously, the IP rights was always confirmed to a human being, the author. It should be a living person. But there have been many cases wherein the machine have produced a lot of IP rights. For example, it was reported recently that a news report was actually made by an AI agent. Similarly, it was reported that okay, so this is a very interesting software that Myntra use. The Myntra, by seeing the behavior of its consumer, designs the own patents and send it for printing. So the copyright would actually belong to that software, so there's no human intervention involved. So in such cases, who owns the IP? Would it be the AI, or would it be the manufacturing, the entity, or again, would it be the AI developer? So these are some of the questions that's been a challenge when it comes to handling AI. So the focus of this session is more on privacy, security, ethics, and bias. And I would now focus on the privacy concerns in AI. So before beginning, so here are some of the real-time cases that I have picked up with some of the predicted analytics tool that most of the companies are using. So let's have a look. In case of a consumer behavior. So this was very interesting observation made by one of the retail company in UK. If you buy diapers, you are more likely to buy beer. Daddy needs a beer. Seriously? Yes, but it is true. Let's look into another instance. This is a finance risk and insurance company that predicted about an insight about an individual. This is very interesting. Low credit rating means more car accidents. So that means if you have a low credit, be careful on the roads. Okay. Healthcare. This is very interesting. Early retirement decreases life expectancy. Really? I would like to retire early and would like to go and climb the hills. I love trekking. Political preferences. How do you find this? Rihanna fans are mostly political Democrats. This might look quite strange, but these all are real, and these are intrusion to our life. So this is how we have been profiled by companies targeted. We all know about Cambridge Analytica, so I would like to speak less. So this is a huge question, whether it's an insight which is used by the company, or is it an intrusion? So when it comes to privacy, the biggest challenge in privacy when it comes to the artificial intelligence model is how do you implement? As I mentioned that the technology process that the slide that I mentioned, the artificial intelligence involves a discovery phase. So now let me take you through, explain you what are the basic principles of privacy. So under the European GDPR, and this is the same principle that most of the countries follow, including the Indian new privacy bill that has come into, that has come in public for comments. So the GDPR follows 7 principles. The first principle is that all the data should be processed lawfully, fairly, and should be transparent. Second, the purpose should be limited, that is for what the consent has been taken. The third principle is data minimization. That is, the data should be taken only to the extent it is required. Accuracy. The data should be accurate. The fifth principle is storage limitation. That is, the retention policy. The data should be retained only for the limited purpose and for the purpose it is required. The sixth is, I think a lot of members have been talking about cybersecurity. As I mentioned, cybersecurity is one of the basic principles of GDPR, which is again given important. So that is the 6 principles of GDPR. And the 7th principle is accountability, and this is where the CISA certification comes into place. So these are the 7 principles of GDPR. But the more important challenge is that when it comes to the life cycle of AI, how do we comply with the privacy principles? Let's map the different stages of AI life cycle against the privacy requirements. So you would notice that when you're collecting the data, that is during the time of data preparation, how would you ensure that the so-called notice and consent principle, which requires an organization to tell data subject what it is going to do with the data, is practical? The opaque nature of analysis using AI techniques can make it difficult for meaningful consent to be provided. This is seen as incompatible when it comes to a big data analytics, and because it may not fit context where the data is observed rather than directly taken by the data subject. The data collected is not just the direct data, but also the derived data. So when it comes to the principles of privacy, it is really difficult to comply in an AI lifecycle. Automated decision making. So one of the key principle or the rights given to a data subject under the GDPR is that no person should be subject to automated decision making without having a right for human intervention and to look how those decisions were made. This itself defeats the very purpose of artificial intelligence. The human review, so the purpose of artificial intelligence is to derive at the data that a human cannot. And by having an human review is not only costly, but it would be a potentially impracticable. There is again a trade-off between algorithm complexity and its explainability. So this restriction actually significantly raises the labor cost and thus creates a strong disincentives from using AI as a main reason for developing AI in the first place is automate the function. So the third challenge is trade-off between AI accuracy and interpretability. The main problem with the concept of a right to explanation is the more complex and variable an algorithm represents in its model, the harder it is for human beings to access how the algorithm arrived at a particular decision. There is always a trade-off between an accuracy and its interpretability. Even if the interpreter understands the system well, a right for the data subject to an explanation of algorithm decision necessarily implies a limitation on the feasible sophistication of the algorithm. So these are one of the main challenges when it comes to artificial intelligence. Coming to the location-based advertising. So another important AI application for e-commerce is the location-based advertising. For advertisers, there are three questions. Who will buy their product? What are the consumer looking for? And where are they? Facebook owns long time back, and they know you and your social network better than anybody else, and in a greater depth. In the online world, Google won the what question with its powerful search algorithms. Google knows what you are looking for even before you fill up the search box at the top of your screen. Before typing the question. But where is still something that is not owned by any company, and there has been a huge, this is brewing among existing titans and startup companies looking to who will own where. Again, so what are the concerns here? McKinsey, so the challenges in using LBS providers revealed private location could be abused by adversaries. So again, pseudonymity cannot overcome privacy threats when it comes to location-based advertising. Anonymization is hard to achieve. And there is always, again, a trade-off between privacy and quality services if it is implemented. So let me give you an example. The traditional, for example, like an adversary can easily infer a user's medical record by knowing that she's visiting regularly a specialized clinic. And using a fake identity will also not help. So these are some of the challenges that we face when it comes to artificial intelligence. So the next important right under privacy is given to a data subject is right to be forgotten. That is the right to erase from the data all its information. It can request any data controller to erase its data. Again, it is difficult to delete a personal data from a database. Data deletion in artificial intelligence context is much more complex than in traditional system. Indeed, when a record is deleted using the SQL interface in relevant database, it is only marked as deleted and gets removed from the search indexes, but those data are still available in the system. Again, right to be forgotten impacts the machine learning. Forcing the system to erase the data can be labor-intensive, time-consuming, and costly, and depending on the circumstances, can also cause damage to the entire system's integrity. Hence, removing the data could impact the algorithm effectiveness and even break it completely. That is why it's famously known that human forgets, but machines remember. It is harder to achieve when it comes to cloud computing. So imagine a credit agency using AI to analyze trends in much larger and more complex data sets and discovering some individuals were not at all risky to lend to as the agency first thought using the traditional system. If one customer exercised its right to eraser, they may not impact on the AI system. But if several other persons with the same kind of classifications and combination of characteristics exercise the right for eraser, it could undermine the rule that caused the algorithm to treat those people as low risk. Indeed, if it does not stop the algorithm from working altogether, it may lead to unfair decision for future customers. For regulators and business concerned about accuracy and fairness, a right to eraser makes it exceedingly difficult to validate the performance of algorithm. So this is the challenge that we face when it comes to privacy. Data portability. The data subject has a right to receive the data in a structured, commonly used, machine-readable format. They have provided through the data controller and can share this data to anyone. The purpose of data portability was to stimulate AI competition, but again, this comes at a cost when it comes to artificial intelligence. So the right to data portability, like just to explain, does not cover all personal data. It is exercised only on provided and observed data about the user, but not to the inferred or derived data. For example, if the data portability requirement would force a movie streaming service to allow its customer to download a list of all movies they have already watched, which is an observed data, but not to stream service recommendation about the movie its customer might enjoy. So this is the difference when it comes to data portability right. Again, it is costly to achieve when it comes to artificial intelligence. Again, the access to data. Again, this brings it again to square one. You know, when you look into the privacy principles, it's very difficult in an AI model to know the data that is saved in the phases it's been saved, and it's very difficult to provide all this data to the individual, and hence this is tough to handle. Indeed, encouraging data controller to develop such kind would actually be a huge concerns in AI. So again, there is an issues with the interoperability when it comes to the data portability. And again, as I mentioned, it's really expensive and not feasible. Re-identification and de-anonymization. A new report from the UK government Office for Science warns that the explosive growth in artificial intelligence driven by big data could mean that anonymized individuals in dataset might be extraordinarily easy to re-identify due to the interlinking of vast semi-supervised system. So this is the function of AI. The AI, again, because of its discovery phase and interlinking of the data to arrive at a result, it is difficult to actually get into the re-identification or de-anonymization mode. Again, the de-identified data match to specific individual. Linking database will again re-identify, which will be again a breach of the privacy. Compliance with GDPR, again, is tough and multifaceted. Again, anonymization is ineffective in the world of big data. AI ethics and bias. So Mr. Sridhar just mentioned very interesting that the one thing that consumer depend is trust. And this is where the company is looking to build trust. So this is very interesting. I have 3 case studies on ethics and bias. I'm sure we all are aware about the Google, which tagged 2 black users as gorilla. And then later the company had pulled down its Google photo app. We heard about the Microsoft Tay racist bot. Though the developer didn't had any intent to build it racism, but it went live in 16 hours. She was pulled down because she started talking more biased and racism that even the developer didn't thought about. The AI beauty contest. This was the first beauty contest which was conducted by Youth Laboratories, which was an AI-based. Again, the contest solicited more than 6 lakhs entries from the world over, but the results were overwhelmingly skewed. As of the 44 winners, 36 were white or European descent. Although the machine judges people not based on their faces, but the patterns of pixels, so this shows that how the developer had built it, that though it still did not display any bias, but it picked it up from itself. So this was again struck down, and the contest will be held again in October, and I hope that this time there wouldn't be any biases, and there would be more black women who would come and win this contest. So these are some of the examples that how AI could turn unethical or could be biased sometimes. Let's come to the cybersecurity part, which most of the members are more interested. So I would like to quote Mark Goodman here. He once said, the more data you produce and store, the more organized crime is happy to consume. While big data may be the new oil, our personal data are more like nuclear material, dangerous, long-lasting, and once they are leaked, they are no getting them back. So let's look into, I just mentioned that a black box is shrouded in secrecy, and that is where you don't get to know. But friends, how can hackers be left behind? So this is one of the research study titled as Stealing Machine Learning Models via Prediction API. A team of computer scientists at Cornell Tech shows how they were able to reverse engineer machine learning trained AIs based only on sending them queries and analyzing the responses. By training their own AI with the target AI's output, they found they could produce software that was able to predict nearly 100% accuracy the response of the AI that they cloned, sometimes after a few hundred or even just 100 of queries. This was tested in the services offered by companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and BigML, which works on pay and use basis. So now they don't need to pay for these services and get it themselves. So this is very interesting. Let's look for another example. This is again a research paper which has proved that aside from merely stealing AI, they can also reconstruct the often sensitive data it's trained on. This is a research paper. It showed that it is possible to reverse engineer a facial recognition AI tool that responds to images with guesses of the person's name. So this is more dangerous. The method would send the target AI repeated test pictures, tweaking the images until they find the pictures that machine learning engine was trained on, and reproduce the actual face images without the researcher computer having ever actually seen them. So these are how the cybersecurity is evolving with technology. I wouldn't say apocalypse, I would say AI apocalypse. So today, the cybercrime is estimated to cause annual losses of $400 billion. I think I need to correct this number because you said it's more than $1 trillion due to high level of sophistication, criminal automation-powered AI. Crime bots. So one of the more important is crime bot, an intelligent agent scripted to perpetrate criminal activities at a scale. These software programs automate computer hacking, virus dissemination, theft of IPR, industrial espionage, spam distribution, identity theft, DDoS, the one that we recently heard. So this is very interesting. This is a company known as Counsel-Asia. It was able to infect machines worldwide with crypto locker Trojan that locked users out of all of their files and forced them to pay in order to regain access. The attack was successful because of its intelligent ransom agent that Counsel-Asia used to seek out and destroy the data, and it made $100 million. So days were gone, wherein a robber can actually steal one bank at a time. Now a person sitting at one place can infect nearly more than 100 computers at a time and make $100 million. So this is how the cybersecurity is involving. Algorithm hacking, again, it is nearly impossible to detect, but can lead to drastically different outcomes in the algorithm behavior. How would you know that your GPS has been infected or the stock trading has been maliciously effective? It's really difficult. Co-conspirators. So there is another way that AI is helping criminals by acting as a non-human co-conspirator to their crime. I have a very interesting case study to say, and this is real, my friends. So in 2012, the University of Florida student was arrested for the alleged murder of his college roommate for dating his ex-girlfriend. His body was found hidden in the woods, not far away from his campus. When police subpoenaed the student's cell phone records and seized the handset, they made two discoveries. Firstly, the killer's GPS signal tracked him to the general location of the body. And the second, which is very more interesting, a screenshot of the request, Siri. Siri, I need to hide my roommate, to which Siri helpfully replied, swamps, receivers, metal foundries, and dump. So you could just imagine how is AI also being a conspiracy when it comes to crime and how it's helping. So with Siri and OK Google and Alexa, you could imagine the level of cyber security it's going to reach. So I'll take you briefly, since I have only 6 minutes, on the applicable laws in India. So privacy as a fundamental right. It's only late 2017 that the Supreme Court recognized finally that privacy is a fundamental right. And we have now a private life. It has also, directed the government to come up with the privacy bill, which just came in a week before, and it has invited comments from the industry. The last date of submission is September 30th. I would encourage everyone who have more interest on cybersecurity and privacy to please look into the bill and submit your comments as well. So these are some of the legislation in India when it comes to cybersecurity and privacy. The Information Technology Act 2000, the Information Technology Reasonable Security Practices and Procedures and Sensitive Personal Data or Information of Rules 2011. This rule deals more into privacy. The white paper, this was again came in because of the judgment of the Supreme Court. The government first came up with the white paper, and now it has recently introduced the Indian Personal Data Protection Bill for comments by the industry. For AI, we have a discussion paper on national strategy, which was again released very recently in June 2018, which also have some guidance on privacy, cybersecurity, and ethics. So these are some of the principles that you will find in the white paper. So these are like the informed consent. It has 7 principles, like the informed consent, technology agnosticism, data control accountability, data minimization, holistic application, deterrent penalties, structured enforcement. Again, the Indian privacy bill is more based on the GDPR, the European privacy law. Due to paucity of time, I wouldn't go in detail. Okay, so I would like to touch upon, because my topic is more into artificial intelligence, some of the recommendations for privacy and cybersecurity issues that was made by the national strategy. So the race has begun, wherein every country wants to become a leader in artificial intelligence. So in the past 15 months, Canada, China, Denmark, the European Commission, Finland, France, India, China, and the UK has all released strategies to promote the use and development of AI. No two strategies are alike, but each focusing on different aspects of AI policies: scientific research, talent development, skills and education, public and private sector adoption, ethics and inclusion, standards and regulations, and data and digital infrastructure. When it comes to India, India has taken a unique approach to its natural AI strategy by focusing on how India can leverage AI not only for economic growth, but also for the social inclusion. Niti Aayog, the government think tank that wrote the report, calls this approach as AI for all. The strategy, as a result, aimed to enhance and empower Indians with the skills to find quality job, invest in research and sectors that can maximize the economic and social growth, and scale Indians-made AI solution to the rest of the developing world. So some of the recommendation is to institute a data privacy legal framework. I think the government is already working on it. Creating sectoral regulatory framework, try has already come up, and a lot of institutions are coming. It is similar to the US region, how they have come with a sector region. Benchmark national data protection laws with international standards. So in this case, the European GDPR guidelines encourage privacy by design, and French laws gives a right to explanation for administrative algorithm decision or administrative decisions. So these are some of the examples that the Niti Aayog paper has said that we should also follow the similar guidelines. Encourage AI developers to adhere to international standards. One of the standards that is mentioned in the paper is IEEE on personal data and individual access control in ethically aligned deep design into AI deep design itself. Encourage self-regulations like DPI, that is data protection impact assessment or privacy by design, and to collaborate on privacy preserving technology like differential privacy. So these are some of the recommendations by the Niti Aayog. These are some of the recommendations on ethics and by NSAI. I would only say one thing, that the government wants India to establish an AI garage, meaning that if a company can deploy in an AI in India, it will then be applicable to the rest of the developing world. So with this intent, the government is pushing to go ahead with various recommendations, giving more importance to fairness and transparency, like opening the black box, though now the hackers have already gone ahead, but still this is something that even our government is recommending. So thank you everyone. I end my slides here, and I'm open to question. I have 1 minute to take the questions. Okay, so I assume that the lunch was quite heavy and delicious. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavitha, for this wonderful session. We would like to hold you for a while on stage, Kavitha. Okay, so we would like to, may I please invite Mr. Dahiri on stage to felicitate Ms. Kavitha for this wonderful session.
Thank you so much.